Gracie Allen, the symbol of American laughter. But 60 years after her death, a long-buried truth has finally come to light. Was the much-vaunted marriage between Gracie and George Burns really as perfect as people believed? Find out in our video. Do you believe that famous Hollywood couples of the past really loved each other until the end of their lives? Comments 1 if you believe in eternal love, or 0 if you think everything has a hidden dark side. To understand the woman behind the laughter and the truth behind the image, we must first look back to where it all began. The life of Grace Ethel Cecile Rosalie Allen, a girl from San Francisco whose name would one day echo across American living rooms. Gracie Allen. Born Grace Ethel Cecile Rosalie Allen, on July 26, 1895, in San Francisco, California, remains one of the most beloved entertainers of the 20th century. A gifted comedian actress and vocal performer, she rose to fame alongside her husband and comedy partner George Burns. Together, they created one of the most successful duos in entertainment history, captivating audiences with their signature blend of witty dialogue, impeccable timing, and undeniable charm. Gracie's early life carries a touch of mystery. Known for her playful nature, she often gave different birth years and delighted in crafting humorous stories about her childhood. But behind the jokes was a deeply rooted connection to tradition. Gracie grew up in a devout household, and her upbringing shaped her sense of discipline and performance. Her father, Edward Allen, was a song and dance man, which meant Gracie was exposed to the stage from an early age. She began dancing in her teens, but it was in the vaudeville circuit where her true comedic brilliance came to life. It was also where she met George Burns, and where a legendary partnership was born. Though she often portrayed the scatterbrained character on stage, Gracie Allen was anything but that in real life. Those who knew her spoke of her intelligence, depth, and grace. Her comedic persona was carefully crafted, a testament to her skill as a performer, not a reflection of who she really was. From 1926 until her retirement in the 1950s and her passing in 1964, Gracie and George remained one of comedy's most enduring pairs. But death have separated them. The entertainment world lost one of its brightest stars when Gracie Allen died at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Hollywood on August 27, 1964. The comedy legend had fought heart problems for years before her final heart attack took her life. Heart disease had troubled Gracie for many years before her death. Her condition got worse in the early 1960s, and she stayed mostly at home during early 1964. Medical records show she had what doctors simply called a heart condition, something doctors today would likely diagnose as angina. This health issue might have run in her family since her mother also died from heart problems. Gracie experienced several mild heart attacks during her final decade, warning signs of her failing health. She stayed active in the Hollywood social scene whenever she could. She even attended actress Edie Adams' wedding to photographer Martin Mills just 9 days before she died, showing how much she wanted to keep up with her friends despite her health struggles. Her heart problems followed a worrying pattern. The first attack hit in the early 1950s, with several smaller episodes in the years that followed. Her doctors gave her nitroglycerin pills, which was the standard treatment for heart problems back then. The final moment came around 9 p.m. that August evening when a massive heart attack struck Gracie at home. George Burns wrote in his memoir, Gracie: A Love Story, that her medicine didn't help that night. George called her doctor right away after seeing how sick she was. The doctor knew this was serious as soon as he saw her and called an ambulance. They rushed Gracie to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital with George right beside her. Their adopted children, Ronnie and Sandra Burns, met their father in the hallway outside Gracie's room while doctors tried to save her. The doctors couldn't help her. Around 11 to 15 p.m., just 2 hours after the attack started, the doctor walked out of Gracie's room with heartbreaking news. He told the family, "Gracie's gone. We couldn't save her." People still debate Gracie's age when she died. Many newspapers said she was 58, but other sources put her at 69. This mix-up came from Gracie's playful way of talking about her birth year, which had become part of her comedy act. If she was born in 1895, she would have been 69 when she died. "I didn't think Gracie was going to die," George said, later clearly shocked and devastated. She had a bad heart, but she'd had it for so long. These words showed how her death blindsided her husband of 38 years despite knowing about her health problems. George's grief showed raw and deep at Gracie's funeral in Forest Lawn's Church of the Recessional. He cried openly and almost fell, needing his best friend Jack Benny and son Ronald to hold him up. His reaction showed just how much she meant to him beyond their years as comedy partners. George tried to find meaning in his loss during those first days. She deserved a rest. He said about Gracie. She had been working all her life, and her lines were the toughest in the world to do. They didn't make sense, so she had to memorize every word. It took a real actress. Every spare moment in bed under the hairdryer had to be spent in learning lines. Do you wonder if she's happy to be rid of it? Gracie's final resting place lies in a crypt at the Freedom Mausoleum in Forest Lawn Memorial Park's Sanctuary of Heritage. The marker first read, Grace Allen Burns, beloved wife and mother, 1902 to 1964. Later, when George died in 1996 at 100 years old, they placed him next to her and changed the marker to Gracie Allen, 1902 to 1964, and George Burns, 1896-1996, together again. George Burns and Gracie Allen met in 1922 at a vaudeville theater in Union Hill, New Jersey. Neither had found much success in their solo careers before they met. Burns, born Nathan Birnbaum in New York on January 20, 1896, spent years in vaudeville with various partners but never gained fame. Gracie, born in San Francisco in 1905, started her career by performing with her father in a song and dance act. They met by chance. The story goes that Gracie visited a girlfriend who was headlining a vaudeville bill. Her friend told her, "These two guys are splitting up Wednesday. Why don't you sit down front and take a look at them? Maybe you would like to work with one of them." Gracie watched both performers and chose George, which led to one of entertainment history's greatest partnerships. The Hill Street Theater in Newark, New Jersey marked the start of their professional journey. Success didn't come right away. Burns once said, "We were a good man and woman act, but we were not headliners or stars or featured attractions. We were on the bill with them. There would be a star or two stars and a featured attraction, and then we would come fourth billing in an 8-act show." The Burns and Allen act that people came to love didn't start out in its final form. George played the comedian, while Gracie delivered straight lines in their first show. Something unexpected happened during that original performance. The audience didn't laugh at George's jokes, but Gracie's questions made them giggle. Their act changed after George made a vital observation. "I found the audience loved Gracie right away," Burns recalled, "and the next show I gave Gracie some of the jokes and the audience found Gracie's character. They liked her when she was on the silly side." They spent the next several years performing in small-town vaudeville theaters. Their marriage in Cleveland on January 27, 1926, strengthened both their personal and professional bond. Things looked up after they signed with the Keith Albee Orpheum Circuit in 1927, a major vaudeville organization that offered better venues. Dizzy was one of their most popular routines, in which Burns would say, "You're dizzy," and Allen would answer by saying, "I'm glad I'm dizzy." "I like boys, and boys prefer girls who are disoriented." George asked the question, "Little girl, do you care about love?" in the hit song Lamb Chops, which is another fan favorite. Gracie would respond with "No." Then she would ask questions about kisses, which would also be answered with "No." And lastly, she would ask, "Well, what do you care about?" with the punchline, "Lamb Chops." They were able to take their careers to new heights once George made the astute decision to transfer positions. In his book titled Gracie, a Love Story, Burns noted that Allen's straight lines were more successful in eliciting laughter than his punchlines. By taking on the role of the straight man and allowing Gracie to be the one to bring out the laughter, he demonstrated excellent business sense. The only thing that changed was this switch. The majority of the material was written by Burns, who also developed Gracie's persona into a stupid, addle-headed woman who was reminiscent of the dumb Dora stereotype that was prevalent in vaudeville throughout the early 20th century. Allen's character, which was a great combination of naivete, zaniness, and innocence, won the hearts of many people from the beginning. When it came to their accomplishment, each performer acknowledged and thanked the other. The following is an example of George's frequent appreciation of Gracie's abilities. All I had to do was say, "Gracie, how's your brother?" Over the course of 38 years she spoke. What's more, there were occasions when I didn't even have to think about asking, "Gracie, how is your brother doing?" Gracie exhibited an extraordinary level of intelligence which stands in stark contrast to this stage role. As part of her performance, she was obliged to memorize lines that were completely incomprehensible, which was a difficult ability that required genuine acting talent. This was something that Burns was well aware of, as he stated that Gracie is a very good straight dramatic actress. The incidents themselves are what make them humorous. Between the years 1929 and 1930, Burns and Allen made their debut on the radio in London through the BBC. This event marked the beginning of their transition from vaudeville performer to broadcasting legend. They had a significant transformation in their careers, which moved their skill from the stages of theaters to the homes of millions of people in the United States. Although they were unsuccessful in their initial audition for NBC in 1930, the duo did not give up on their dream. It was when Gracie gave a solo performance on Eddie Cantor's radio show that she achieved success. Almost immediately, both of them began making frequent appearances on Rudy Vallee's The Fleischmann's Yeast Hour. Their big break came on February 15, 1932, when they were given a regular place on The Guy Lombardo Show, which was broadcast on CBS. This was the beginning of their careers in American radio. Their ever-increasing popularity resulted in the production of their very own program, which was titled The Adventures of Gracie, and opened on September 19, 1934. The name of the program was changed to The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show on September 26, 1936. There were many instances during this time period in which sponsors had an impact on the program's title, such as Maxwell House Coffee Time, 1945 to 1949. Gracie's search for her lost brother was the beginning of a spectacular publicity ploy that began on January 4, 1933. It was not uncommon for her to appear on other network shows and stop them in order to inquire about her fictitious lost sibling. The efforts that NBC made to put an end to the year-long joke were unsuccessful and resulted in even greater publicity. During the year 1940, they once again achieved success with a commercial effort that was titled Gracie Allen for President, which was a representation of her fake surprise party. The transition from radio to television in 1950 appeared to be a simple process to the audience, but behind the scenes it required a great deal of planning. On October 12, 1950, CBS made its debut with the first episode of The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show. In the process of transitioning from radio to television, the show became one of the first successful comedy shows to make the transition. Each and every other Thursday live broadcasts were carried out from New York. To alleviate the strain of performing live, Burns desired to have sufficient time for rehearsal. Following the completion of 6 episodes, production was moved to Hollywood, making it the third West Coast series produced by CBS. During the fall of 1952, the show began airing weekly episodes that were filmed. For the purpose of eliciting genuine responses, each episode was shown to a test audience. Burns said that the only time they improved the laughter was when they were unable to cut out a joke that was not successful. In the realm of television, the show introduced novel approaches. Burns was the first actor in the history of television to break the fourth wall by direct communication with viewers while scenes were being filmed. It was the first time that anyone had actually utilized this theatrical style on television, and it quickly became the show's signature. Over the whole of the show's 8-year run, the same cast and crew members remained with the show. From 1950 to 1953, Ralph Levy was in charge of production and direction, followed by Frederick de Cordova from 1953 to 1956, and Rod Amato from 1956 to 1958. Although the show never achieved the highest ratings, it maintained a consistent viewership for 8 seasons. In March of 1953, it became a part of the Monday night primetime program on CBS, joining I Love Lucy. It eventually reached number 20 on Nielsen's list of the top 30. For the 1954 to 1955 season, the rankings remained stable at 26th. And for the 1955 to 1956 and 1956 to 1957 seasons, they averaged 28. The industry received recognition through a total of 12 nominations for Emmys. In addition, Bea Benaderet received 2 awards for her supporting part, and there were 4 nominations for the Best Comedy Series. Allen received 6 nods for Best Actress and Comedienne. The laid-back and endearing mood of the show was praised by the critics. The simple, tasteful, compact setting was lauded by the New York Times. They made the observation that Gracie steals the show, but George Burns's subtle performance makes her shine even brighter. On February 17, 1958, after the conclusion of the season, Allen made the announcement that she would be retiring due to her health concerns. There was just one season of The George Burns Show on NBC, which aired from October 21, 1958, to April 14, 1959. Burns made an effort to continue the popularity of the show. An extraordinary chapter in the history of television comedies was brought to a close with the couple's final show together, which was filmed on June 4, 1958. By the late 1950s, Gracie Allen's health had suffered a great deal as a result of the strenuous requirements of the television production industry. This well-liked comic, who had been a source of delight for audiences for decades with her performances that appeared effortless, struggled in private with a growing number of health concerns which ultimately led to her having to leave the entertainment industry at an earlier age. A formal announcement of her retirement was made by Gracie on February 17, 1958, and she intended to leave at the conclusion of the season. Many people believed that her decision was connected to the possibility that color television might disclose her heterochromia, which is a condition in which she has different colored eyes. The truth concerned a number of different aspects. She was unable to cope with the demanding nature of her work. George had the ability to improvise his portions, but Gracie's persona required extremely exact delivery of lines that made no sense. It was impossible for her to paraphrase without compromising the timing or the humor. Later on, George remarked, her lines were the most difficult to perform anywhere in the world. She had to commit each and every word to memory since they were incomprehensible. It required a genuine actress. It was necessary to devote every free moment to learning lines, whether it was in bed or while using the hairdryer. Fear of performing on stage plagued Gracie throughout her whole career. Within the context of public appearances, she experienced persistent pressure to maintain her role in order to maintain the illusion. During their time on the radio, she had discussed retirement with George, which was a long time before they achieved success on television. Gradually deteriorating health became the primary factor that led to Gracie's decision to resign. It was in the early 1950s when she experienced her first heart attack, which was followed by a number of less severe incidents. During that time period, her condition was referred to as a heart condition, and she was prescribed nitroglycerin pills. Today, doctors would most certainly classify glycid safe boss on as angina or osid ahori. Even though she was experiencing chest pains and minor heart attacks, Gracie was able to continue performing because she prioritized the show. After some time had passed, George revealed that he had been unaware of the extent of her struggles throughout those years. 1958 was the year that the show came to an end, because to exhaustion, stress, and physical health difficulties that made retirement unavoidable. The frequency of her headaches increased, and as a result, she frequently became tense and reclusive. A conclusion was reached on June 4, 1958, when the last edition of The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show was broadcast. Without any special farewells, they filmed it in the same manner as any other episode. While attending the wrap party, Gracie drank champagne from a small cup, hugged her friend and co-star, B. Benaderet, and then simply stated, "Okay, that's it." "And thank you very much, everyone," she said, as she walked away from the set after taking one final look around it. Following her retirement, Gracie shifted her attention to gardening and homemaking, and she appeared to be satisfied with her choice. "She deserved a rest," George replied in an encouraging manner. In spite of CBS's desire to continue airing their popular show, Gracie remained steadfast. Her social life continued to be vibrant whenever her health permitted it. The fact that she had a gambling problem and was bad at it was later revealed by George, despite the fact that she enjoyed going shopping, seeing friends playing cards, and gambling as a new interest. Despite the fact that she occasionally appeared in public alongside George, she never again gave a performance. Even though she suffered from migraines and chest trouble on occasion, Gracie appeared to be enjoying her first few years of retirement. Up until 1964, she led a tranquil and comfortable existence, making the most of the time she had free from the demands of performing, which had shaped the majority of her life during that time. At the time of Gracie Allen's passing in 1964, George Burns showed an unwavering commitment to honoring the memory of his wife that lasted for 32 years. They had a legendary devotion to one another throughout their 38-year marriage. Through the manner in which George paid tribute to Gracie's memory after she had passed away, their narrative became even more heartfelt. It was clear that their relationship went beyond merely working together, as seen by his unwavering commitment to preserving her legacy. He never missed an opportunity to pay his respects to Gracie's grave, which was located in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. According to an article that was published in the Los Angeles Times in the year 1988, George Burns goes out to Forest Lawn in Glendale once a month to visit Gracie's grave. His visits were not occasions of sadness. Rather, they became a means for him to maintain his connection with her. By saying, "I talk to her," Burns elaborated, "I tell her what I've been up to, which of our pals I've run into." It is via these regular visits that he is able to maintain their bond. In a conversation that took place in 1988, he stated, "I don't know if she hears me or not. In spite of this, it makes me feel better." Over the course of their relationship, he continued to pay her visits and tell her about his various projects, including the book that chronicled their lives together. George's affection was evident even in the most intimate of his times. After the death of Gracie, he continued to perform a number of personal rituals which demonstrated that he was unable to really let her go. The fact that he frequently stated in interviews that parting ways with Gracie was like parting ways with his next breath is evidence of how much she meant to his existence. George's decision to never remarry after Gracie passed away was the most profound demonstration of his commitment to her. Despite the fact that he lived for another 32 years, which is roughly a third of his total lifespan of 100 years, he never forgot Gracie. In response to a question on what makes marriages last, Burns provided a straightforward response: "Marry Gracie." It was his final wishes that brought an end to his dedication. Specifically, he requested that he be buried next to her, and he made concessions with regard to religious customs in order to be with her for the rest of his life. He had explained, "I want to be buried next to her," and he had said this, "It is not possible for me to be laid to rest in Catholic consecrated ground since I am a Jew. I really hope that I was able to find a satisfactory middle ground." In 1996, when George passed away at the age of 100, he was placed to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park next to Gracie. This was exactly what he had desired. Grace Allen Burns, beloved wife and mother, 1902 to 1964, was the previous inscription on the crypt's headstone. However, it was later altered to Gracie Allen, 1895 to 1964, and George Burns, 1896 together again. This final homage does an excellent job of capturing their everlasting connection. Despite the fact that Burns and Allen's comedy routine was flawless and presented a glossy front, their marriage was plagued by personal difficulties. Even though they had to endure a lot of difficulties over their 38-year marriage, they were able to maintain a connection that made other Hollywood couples envious. At the height of their fame, which occurred in the early 1940s, George Burns had a brief affair with another woman. He felt an overwhelming sense of shame, and he made an effort to set things right with Gracie. To show his regret, he purchased a brand new coffee table for her. It was never Gracie's intention to confront him about his unfaithfulness. George later overheard her remark to a friend in their living room, "You know, I wish George would have another affair." George believed that she was referring to him. "I am in desperate need of a new coffee table." Another version of the event states that George apologized to her by presenting her with a ring and a silver centerpiece. He believed that she was oblivious of the reason for his apology. Regardless of whose story you choose to believe, Gracie's response demonstrated her wit and her willingness to forgive. This was evidence of what Gracie Allen was like in real life. She was intelligent, courteous, and she handled difficult situations with comedy. A simple secret was the key to their long-lasting marriage. George once remarked, "We didn't do anything." And he was right. The problem with a lot of people is that they put forth an excessive amount of effort to maintain their marriage. They use it as a means of making a profit. If you put in too much effort at a company, you will eventually become exhausted, and when you become exhausted, you will become irritable, and then you will begin to fight, and when you begin to fight, you will be out of business. Their business partnership was only the beginning of their romance. In order to establish a secure family unit, they adopted 2 children, a daughter named Sandra, who was born on July 28, 1934, and a son named Ronnie, who was born on July 9, 1935. Their home life was regarded as an absolute delight by those who knew them well from a personal standpoint. "Gracie was my partner in our act, my best friend, my wife and my lover, and the mother of our 2 children," George wrote in his memoir, Gracie, A Love Story, which was published in 1988. In addition, he stated, "Our marriage was successful. We had no reason to doubt the quality of the marriage because we never came across any negative media coverage of it." His autobiography is the most sincere testament to their relationship that has ever been written. An individual who reviewed it asked, "How many husbands do you know who can write their wife's biography after she's dead, give her all the credit, and still get some good jokes in?" Gracie Allen's shift from the ditzy character she portrays on stage to the person she really is one of the most remarkable transformations in the history of the entertainment industry. Over the course of several decades, people adored her disorganized persona, but very few were aware of the sophisticated woman who was hiding beneath it all. The character that Gracie played on stage was nothing at all like her. She was a performer at heart, yet she placed a high importance on her privacy. That Gracie was one of the first female comics who could be both funny and pretty was something that Betty White mentioned at one point in time. She was described as a perfect lady, who could have been at home at Buckingham Palace when she was not performing on stage. She conducted herself with grace and refinement. Her life presented her with a number of difficult obstacles which she chose to conceal from her followers. At an early age, she was injured when a pot of tea that was boiling fell on her left arm and shoulder. She was left with severe scars as a result of the event, which she concealed by donning gowns with long sleeves. In addition, she possessed eyes of 2 distinct colors, one blue and one green, which caused her to have feelings of self-consciousness. In sharp contrast to what most people believed, Gracie was described as a very good, straight, dramatic actress, in addition to being a comedian. The phrase, "Gracie played the part," was a method that George Burns never failed to emphasize this distinction. The character she played employed what Burns referred to as illogical logic. She was not insane. Rather, she simply viewed the world from her own particular perspective. Her intelligence manifested itself in unexpected ways. In 1939, she made an appearance on the intellectual quiz show Information Please, and she was able to maintain her position against the experts. "It takes a keen intelligence to play a dumb role that long and well," someone once commented. "It takes a genius to do that." Throughout her personal life, Gracie was able to maintain a high level of integrity. When George failed to hold a door open for her, she once kicked him in order to show her that she demanded respect. "To be professional, to be on time, and to not push me around because I'm small," was the guiding principle that she followed in her daily life. In contrast to other artists, she never brought her personality from the stage home with her. Gracie was never one to crack jokes. It was never Gracie's intention to make people laugh, Burns recalled. She was humiliated by jokes that were not appropriate, and she would not leave the house unless she was entirely flawless. Her life was profoundly influenced by her Irish Catholic heritage, and throughout her life she attended church on a regular basis. Perhaps it was because she possessed what the director Rod Amato referred to as deep honesty, that her comedic performances felt so genuine and lasted for such a long time. After Gracie Burns passed away, George Burns continued to live for another 32 years, but he never got over the fact that he had lost her. Burns could still be seen with a cigar in his hand recounting stories about Gracie with a smile in his eye and a heart full of love for the wife he had lost. This was even though he was 100 years old. George and Gracie's story is one of love, laughter, and an unshakable bond that transcended the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Their story is a story we will never forget. The reality of their marriage was in many respects significantly more meaningful than the funny personalities that they created for themselves on television. The foundation of their friendship was a profound mutual regard, appreciation, and an understanding of the power of humor that they both possessed alike. Even now, more than 60 years after Gracie's passing, the story of their enduring love continues to serve as a source of motivation for individuals who have faith in the prospect of a lifetime connection that is filled with laughter and dedication. One of the most enduring legacies from that golden age of television belongs to Burns and Allen, the iconic comedy duo of George Burns and Gracie. Gracie Allen. Their sharp wit, perfect timing, and undeniable chemistry brought joy to millions and helped shape early American television. Even decades after Gracie's passing and George's final bow, their influence can still be seen in today's sitcoms and comedy formats. Their warmth and humor left a lasting mark, one not clouded by tragedy but illuminated by laughter. In a time when Hollywood had both triumph and turmoil, Burns and Allen reminded audiences that humor, love, and authenticity never go out of style. Their legacy lives on not only through reruns and recordings but in the very heart of comedy itself. Theirs was a love story unlike many in Hollywood, a true partnership that endured for 38 years. After her death, George often spoke of how deeply he missed her. He never stopped talking about her, often saying that she was the funniest, smartest person he had ever known. What do you think about the story behind Gracie Allen's smile? Leave a comment 1 if you still believe they really love each other, or 0 if you think that love is just a stage show. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more hidden truths behind the flashy lights of Hollywood's golden age. Thank you for watching, and always remember, behind a smile can be a whole life that has never been heard.